Hello, I'm Jody Wolf, and you're watching Expoz, January 29, 2018, 7:07 p.m. Birmingham. Topic: I'm going to give you some more information about the last blog that I did, and Hashima, Japan. And what I want to tell you about that is there wasn't a great number of people were killed, but those that were grabbed, and it's like very close quarters. It wasn't as almost like hand to hand, and that were killed, they were being grabbed by their teeth and torn apart. And now, let me make another reference back to the Afghanistan giant, L.A. Marzulli. Recall that, and recall the information leading up to them capturing that thing, killing it, and bringing it back to the States. It killed some Marines, and you can find all that if you go and look it up. L.A. Marzulli and Steve Quayle both talk a lot about that giant, and even the pilots who flew that thing described how big it was, how much it weighed. So it's not uncommon for really strange things to happen. And then you go to Dulce, New Mexico. This is where Phil SCHNEIDER worked for the federal government. When they drilled into, and then when I'm saying drilled, we're talking about a big hole, not a hole, I mean, big enough to lower a cage in with several men on it. And as they were lowered into this hole, and he didn't say what they were looking for. He just said that they were people who were checking out the kind of ground it was, the depth of a certain type of ground, whether they were going to drill or do some other things. But it's a big hole, apparently. And I say big, several feet across. But there was a shootout between these aliens and our federal agents or government employees. So that's happened before. What happened in Japan is not new. And Dulce is not far from Roswell, as you know. So look at them both on the map, Dulce and Roswell. And also, when Steve Quayle talks about the things under the ice, and then tie in to what Phil SCHNEIDER says, what's under Dulce in Area 51, the stacked up cities or stacked up levels of a city down there, and then high-speed rail that's down there that connects different parts of the world. And Steve Quayle also talked about the Antarctica and what they have underneath the ice, besides what we know that we feel like the Enoch describes this as a place where the angels, some of the watcher angels, were delivered to, the lead fall angel and a couple of his lieutenants, that they're supposed to be under the ice. And but Steve also said that they have tunnels that go throughout this world from there. He also said, and he is very specific when he said this, he said he feels that one day when it does happen, there will be an attack by these aliens. Keep in mind, they're not aliens. They're not from somewhere else. They're all from here, right here. So he said that there'll be an attack, a surprise attack. And he said, someone reported to him, you can find this as well on his blogs, about South America, about cavities being found on Google Earth, scattered throughout, dotted throughout South America. And then the attempt by someone to blot them out. But they've got evidence that they're there. And Steve Quayle talks about that. So what happened at Hashima Island is not a new thing. It's just that they're doing all they can do to cover it up today. And for some unknown reason, they're doing that. The show that abandoned places, whatever it was on TV, the very first one they had wasn't the same show. It was another. But the first one several years ago mentioned it. And then there was an excerpt at the very end of this program that saying that there was attacks of the people that were mining coal that broke through a large chamber of some beings that lived underground, and that they were ferocious. They attacked rapidly, and those that they attacked, they ripped apart with their mouths. And so how many died, no one knows. These openings in South America, I believe you're going to start hearing when people, down there, there's very little way they can get a word out when a tiny village has been decimated, just disappeared. The same as on these islands, parallel the Solomon Islands, those things living under the islands. And when one island sunk overnight, just disappeared, this was one of the main islands where these beings lived, these giants. But the islands are interconnected underground. So there's so much evidence to prove that other things have happened very similar to Hashima Island in Japan. So I just wanted to give you those other references, and you can look those things up for yourself. These things are real, guys. It's just not one place. It's all over, and it's getting tighter and tighter. And I still expect a grand disclosure. We had the soft disclosure already. I expect a grand disclosure. And pay closely to the commercials you see on TV about the Super Bowl that's going to occur on February 4th. Listen, watch the commercials. One of them specifically shows a bright light, shows a young man standing looking at it, and he's terrified. It says, "We are here." That's it. It was over. About 10 seconds of it. Look for that and see if you can decipher what that's about. Jody Wolf Expoz.